contrary to popular wishes, we haven't all been locked into a room and forced to record a podcast against our will. No, wait a minute. This is, of course, the TuxRadar podcast. I am Paul Hudson.
I'm Graham Morrison.
I'm Mike Saunders.
I'm Andrew Gregory.
And in this podcast, we're going to talk about, of course, the new Ubuntu 9.04 release. Is it as slick as OS 10? The GP2X Wiz, it's here, we love it.
Got it right here now. Proof.
And our open ballot. Should we dump OpenOffice.org in favour of lighter applications? Don't forget, it's brought to you by Linux Format. You can get our awesome subscriptions deal at tinyurl.com/podcastlxf. I think there's a new issue on sale tomorrow.
There is indeed, yep.
Yeah,
119.
Yeah, particularly snazzy looking cover. How to work smarter with Linux. There's Slackware, there's Trickle, there's SSH tunneling, there's old school file managers, and there's Zev Siraski from the PHP world with an exclusive interview.
Quite literally something for everyone.
Wow. And of course on TuxRadar.com we are publishing news, features and more, so bookmark it today. Right, now normally we'd announce the big news on TuxRadar, but just for once we're going to give our podcast people a bit of an exclusive news item, so listen carefully, listeners. It turns out there's this new distro called Ubuntu 9.04.
Ubuntu.
Have you heard of it?
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu Linux.
Is that named after the cola?
It's the latest thing from Canonical, and it's very brown.
Still.
I've already installed it on maybe half a dozen computers because I've installed the release candidate and that broke, so I reinstalled it several times. And
how's it been?
it's awesome. I love it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Have you installed it with ext4
I have.
file system?
On my laptop, it's ext4.
Fast?
Because it's shiny, isn't it? It's a new install. It's always faster than new install. I put it on the laptop because if it bails out, it's got battery power backup, so I don't mind so much.
Oh yeah, built
Whereas
in
on my desktop,
UPS.
it's all ext3. Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. You been trying it? Anyone, Graham?
Yeah, I think I've installed it on a couple of machines. Kubuntu actually I installed.
Oh yes.
I installed Ubuntu on a virtual
And how are you
machine.
finding Ubuntu and Firefox?
There's no Firefox installed by default, which it's kind of understandable when they can't squeeze it onto a CD, but it's a real pain.
Well, really, you're forced to use Conqueror.
Yeah, forced to use Conqueror to check my Gmail, which is a bad idea. And so the first thing I did was install Firefox. There's no Vim either.
No, there's no Vim on the GNOME.
Is there V? I heard you mention this yesterday, Paul. Have you tried just VI? Have they got like XV or something?
It's muscle memory.
NV.
VI doesn't work. I have to
It's the
type
same.
VIM, enter.
Right, alias then is the key here, I think.
But otherwise it's slick, yeah.
Which Ubuntu are you using, Andrew? Not the stereotype user, an Ubuntu user.
710, I think.
710.
Wow.
Classic.
Classic Ubuntu, yeah.
I'm rocking
old
it.
school.
I'm rocking it old school styly.
Well, hopefully all the listeners here have seen our feature on TuxRadar. We did a look back at all the previous Ubuntus, because the 10th release, of course, anniversary. And my favourite bit, because I did it, was the animated GIF at the end, which showed all the desktops from 4.10 all the way up to 9.04.
It's been surprisingly consistent, hasn't it? It's gone through different shades of
It
brown,
has, yeah,
but
it's gone to more orange.
the general layout of the desktop has been
I
the
think
same.
people have forgotten how brown it was in the first release.
Yeah, it's like
it wasn't a nice chocolate warm brown. It was a hideous desaturated brown.
Yeah.
How did you get the Nautilus file manager window to be the same size on every screen?
Extreme amounts of patience.
That took months of preparation.
I was sitting there going, okay, 2 pixels left, 1 pixel up, again and again and again. Seriously, it was really bad.
That's very impressive.
I'm sure it was worth it in the long term.
I did notice that the fonts look like they improved a lot over time. They got a lot slicker.
Yes, but have you not noticed when you log in GDM, they're still crap?
Yeah.
The GDM ones are still lame, whereas when you're in there, they're nice.
They're actually very good on KDM, Kubuntu. I've really noticed a difference.
You see, that's what's
there is
Firefox.
one reason for using it. Yeah.
They couldn't do
Just
Firefox
squeeze the
because
fonts
they're
on,
doing fonts. Oh, actually, did you see one of the guys behind the Mono team? I'm always happy about Mono.
Mono.
He said they can take out Rhythmbox and put Banshee in and save something like 12 megabytes of space, which would be enough for Firefox's icon. Firefox is quite a heavyweight application, but every little bit helps. He said actually if they took that away and made that replacement, they'd have the first 5% of OpenJDK.
Oh wow!
I think if that's the ultimate goal, don't bother, guys. Keep Rhythmbox.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a netbook remix, which
Yes,
Andrew,
there
you
is.
talked about.
Yeah, indeed.
You licked ass really with Mark Shuttleworth, didn't you? oh, Mark, my discovery of the week is Ubuntu Netbook Remix.
Like that.
I don't think I used those exact words. Or maybe I did, but just not in that not knowing that exact tone of voice.
And nobody could see your Mark Shuttleworth T-shirt, unfortunately.
Yes, it's out, and it's we love it actually. It's really cool, isn't it? We used it with you and me, Mike, and it's remarkably shiny.
It's really shiny.
It is
shiny is the best word for it.
Yeah. In fact, someone said about 9.04 that it's as polished as OS 10. See that?
Who said that?
His name, I'm going to try and pronounce it. His name was Renai LeMay, I think. Renai LeMay. He's from Australia, it can't be French. I don't know. He's from ZNet Australia. He said it's as slick as OS 10, which either means he hasn't used OS 10 or he hasn't used Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of ideas seem to be borrowed from OS 10. I noticed that when you shut down now, you get the countdown that will shut down whatever you're doing anyway, which is a nice feature from OS 10. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. And well, I've been finding problems recently. Actually, I do like it. I'm very happy with it. But if I try and hibernate my laptop, it just sits there with a flashing cursor forever. I left it overnight once like that. I don't know what I've done to the screen.
It's just prompting you to enter the appropriate hibernation parameters, isn't it? Clearly, I don't know.
Suspend's hit and miss. Suspend actually locked up my machine once. Otherwise, it usually works.
Is he saying the whole experience is as slick as OS 10 or the interface? Just the interface?
Either way, it's not true.
Yeah.
I think he's a fanboy, and I think we're actually hurting ourselves by saying that. We're hiding problems.
Yeah.
Ubuntu Netbook Remix, we've tried it. You know, on an Intel GPU, random thing, very low powered, it looks great. The icons scale and spin, and it looks fantastic out of the box.
Yeah.
9.04 doesn't. I showed you yesterday, Mike, I've got a really high powered machine, and the default look for 9.04 is screen tearalicious.
Oh, that was awful.
Massive
wasn't
screen
it?
tear.
Yeah.
You install the proprietary NVIDIA driver, select Force VSync, you still get massive screen tear.
You had to install some Compiz setting tool,
I had to go
didn't
to
you?
Compiz Settings Manager. It's not installed by default. Didn't even show in Synaptic for some reason. I had to do it from apt-get from that command line. And then force VSync in one of the hidden options there. And finally, there was no tearing.
That sort of stuff should just work out of the box, shouldn't it?
Yeah. When that's true, when these kind of things are on by default, then it's as slick as Mac OS 10.
Well, KWin's got VSync enabled by default on Kubuntu, so I didn't have
I'm
any
not
of those
going to
kind
switch.
of
I'm not going to bloody switch.
There's a lot of pro Kubuntus here, isn't
Well,
there,
why
this
not?
episode?
Why not? If we're having a talk about Ubuntu,
I'll tell you why not. KD 4.2, that's why not.
What version of KDE does Kubuntu have?
it is 4.2. Yeah.
Is that as slick as OS 10?
It's the best release of KD4 so far.
Faint praise indeed.
Yeah. And when you try and install Firefox through the K package manager, you get like 30 different packages. It's really impossible to choose the right one. Okay. There's a little bit of balance.
You were doing well there for a while. Yeah. You've dragged it down a little bit. So, Mike, you're running 8.04 now, aren't you?
I am at the moment on my
jump ship?
Super Elite test box, yeah. I will do after I finish the next LXF cover disc.
And what's on that, Mike?
Oh, let's see. Gen 2. macOS, of course. I'm going to move over to Xubuntu, so we'll have Ubuntu, Kubuntu, and Xubuntu in action at the office, and Ubuntu Netbook Remix.
I might install TechBuntu.
TechBuntu with TechWM. Somebody did package up TechWM a few years ago. Some sad poor loser.
Is there an Ubuntu herd? I know there's a Debian GNU herd.
No, but there's a new project for you.
Sweet.
Yeah. You've always been waiting for.
Speaking of new projects, how's your Throbber coming along, Mike?
It's in the consultancy phase at the moment.
Stage 1 planning.
Yeah, stage 1 planning. I've got a SourceForge page up for it, and a mailing list that nobody's on, and a bug list that nobody's on, just like almost every other SourceForge project, actually. It's brilliant. I'm so happy with it.
And in other news, the GP2X Wiz is here. We've got one here right now. Wow. Mike's trying to find the power switch.
Yeah, it's power switch just tucked deeply into the side. You may have seen on TuxRadar, we've already had a quick look at it. Certainly it's built considerably better than the last one, but we've had no luck getting an emulator running on it yet. It doesn't seem to be backwardly compatible.
It looks like a disposable camera.
Or an Atari Lynx.
But it's nice. It's got a nice bright touchscreen.
Yeah, very bright.
It's an AMOLED touchscreen, I believe, so...
No idea what that means.
No.
It means bright and shiny.
OLED is good, so AMOLED must be...
Even better.
Even better, yeah.
Good God.
Wow.
How cute. Try and find out where the speaker is on this thing.
Arcade classics.
Yeah.
16-bit arcade quality graphics and sound. Does it do Altered Beast?
Not yet, but if somebody brings out a Genesis/Mega Drive emulator for it, then it will. But
That is great.
should we just have this as the background track for the rest of the podcast?
Are you saying we should wrap the podcast?
Yeah.
You first, Mike.
That is cool. It sounds like the Yellow Magic Orchestra.
Hang on.
That's just
hang
what I wasn't thinking.
But what's cool about it? Why is it cool?
Because hypothetically,
It's,
you'll be able to emulate any console. It's fast enough now that it should be able to emulate even original PlayStation.
It's a 533, yeah?
It's 533
Oh, no.
megahertz processor in it, yeah. 64 megs of RAM, so that might push it a bit with the PlayStation. Oh, it's slowed down there. But, yeah. Do you remember the original Game Park? We had one in the office. A handheld unit like this, but it was sold as like a media player and a hobbyist games machine, but it was also very widely used for emulation. So the idea being, you've got a portable SNES, come Mega Drive, come NES, come ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64 in your pocket to play
Right.
all the classics on the go.
I see your pages coming in quite late this issue.
But importantly, how do you turn the music off?
I think you do it by turning the power off.
All right. And
There we
pulling
go.
the batch out and throwing it across the room.
But it's also nice if you want to develop your own games or convert SDL stuff.
Is it? What? The SDL's on there as standard, is it?
It was on the original, so we've only had this, for a few hours in total usage time. So yeah, SDL was on the last one, so you could pretty much port your game straight away.
Oh, well, of course, then the second most important question is, does it have mono and C#?
You could
What
always
about
try
Python?
porting.
Does it have Python?
Python? Perhaps.
It's now time for Hot Topic. This fortnight's Hot Topic is in light of Oracle buying the venerable Sun Microsystems. What effect do we think it's going to have on open source and the Linux community? It's a massive bombshell. Nobody saw it coming. Even Steve Ballmer was bemused when he was asked what he thought the implications might be.
Did he throw any chairs?
I think we were all just as shocked as the rest of the world.
Isn't part of the problem that none of us really have that much exposure to any Oracle software in day-to-day
I
use?
think you're
Oracle
right.
is huge, and yet for those of us that are just mainly interested in desktops and home,
Yeah, and things that
computers
stick in your mind are like Oracle's Linux, which
Unbreakable
yeah,
Linux,
basically a fork of Enterprise at the time.
RHEL, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's about it, isn't it? Despite the fact that they're a colossal company.
They're huge, yeah, but we don't get involved in databases that much, so we don't know that much about how they're going to behave. It's hard to predict, isn't it?
So what else does Oracle buy? Do?
Well, they're mainly a big enterprise database company. They sell hardware too. So, Sun for them is going to mean... Open Solaris will make a lot of sense to them. They could stick it on
So
hardware.
Sun owns Open
That
Solaris.
seems unlikely to me. I don't think Sun makes any sense. Even Open Solaris makes any sense to anyone nowadays. Even Sun don't quite get what they're going to do with it. So
The open
I'm not sure.
side of it, you mean?
Well, just full stop. What are they going to do with it? Where's the bloody point in it nowadays?
So what
Well,
software
yeah.
has Oracle bought when they bought Sun?
Well, they got MySQL, they got VirtualBox, which is Sun bought VirtualBox a couple of years ago. Virtualization.
They got Java. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, they got Java.
They want Java. They wanted Java. They have Java now.
And there's OpenOffice.org. So some major open source projects now fall into the hands of a company who we admit we don't really know much about.
No, if they try and pull any tricks with OpenOffice.org, then I'm sure Go.oo will take over, much like X.org took over
And
X386.
when you say tricks, what are you thinking? It might turn OO into a huge bloated office suite.
They might slow it down.
They might take the quick starter away. Oh, well, you know what I mean. If they behave badly, it all remains to be seen. They could be brilliant community players, but if they do...
And that actually worked well, didn't it, for X? Rate of development increased with X.org.
Yeah.
And things started to happen much quicker. And it was a good thing for the Linux desktop. It might happen with OpenOffice.org, that if it does fork, people might actually start working on its boot time.
Finally, at long last.
But I guess the real problem is going to be MySQL, because it directly competes with an Oracle product.
That's why it's been forked already,
Yeah, I saw that.
which is good. That may make the difference. Keep it going on as it is. Well, there's Drizzle, which was forked a while ago, I think it was Brian Ackerfolk, now I can't remember, which is a cloud computing focused MySQL. Really stripped back to its core, let's be uber fast and keep data basically. And there's a new fork that I think Monty Videnius is working on, which is the same thing again, just fork it, keep all the features and just try and hire developers away from Oracle.
I mean, yeah, that's the important thing, keeping the same team who've worked on MySQL for years, keeping them together and keeping the momentum.
That's something that they did really well during the sort of 4.0, 4.1 series. When they saw some community guys hacking on MySQL, doing some good work, they just hired them. So they ended up having nearly all the good MySQL talent working directly for MySQL, which is a very good position to be in. So now they are leaving because they don't want to be involved with Sun or Oracle. They can now join Monty's team and do a fork, which is cool.
That is, I mean, yeah, that's why we love open source software. Will Monty's team have enough money to push it? I guess we'll see.
Well, the thing is, the reason people pay for things like Red Hat support is because they know, my kernel isn't working with this thing. What's going on? They can pick up the phone and they can talk to Stephen Tweedy or whoever it is, someone who's got direct kernel knowledge of what's going on. And if MySQL happens to have the MySQL team mostly working for them, that's where the support contracts are likely to go, I think.
So what do you think Oracle will do with Java?
I think Oracle's really interested in Java. That's what it comes down to. Java obviously is the number one middleware platform nowadays, and they make a lot of stuff like Collaboration Suite, which Java's key basically to them. They need it. That's why they make Oracle JDeveloper. They care a lot about Java developers and making it work with their stuff. So I think it's really, really important to them. But to be fair, I'm not a big fan of Java. Damn Python! Not a big fan of Java because it moves very, very slowly. It's like OpenGL. And if Oracle do anything, they might just make Java move slightly faster. Develop faster, add more features faster. Because I think it's really struggling to stay up with .NET nowadays.
Well, it seems to have been in the doldrums now for a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a shame because it's a great technology. It should be really powerful, but it's just falling behind.
And yeah, it's used everywhere.
Yeah, so I think Oracle could do great things with Java. Please, Oracle, come on, Larry, do great things with Java. Please, it'd be awesome. We'd all love to see that. Apart from the poor guys trying to fit it onto an Ubuntu desktop CD. We'd all love to see a great Java to finally replace .NET on the desktop. So I'm hoping that'd be great. Oh, that's the wild card for me. MySQL I can see them killing or not caring about. Java I can see them doing great stuff with. But goodness knows what. This could be anything.
I think OOO is the most likely candidate for a fork.
Yeah. Well, MySQL has already forked.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, for a project that actually
takes over.
Distinctly different from the original.
Correct. Yeah, I can see. If Java were to fork, I don't think it would be any better than Oracle's respin. Because the point of Java, it doesn't fork. It is centralized. Write once, crash anywhere kind of thing. So it's simple and stable.
If anything, it's actually highlighted just how important Sun was. I think through the back door in our world.
So now they've been snapped up by a corporate giant. We missed them, do we?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I wrote anything about Sun.
Sun were absolute prats. Sun were the most arrogant, irritating
they didn't have any idea.
They were so bloody clueless. I can't believe they were allowed to survive that long by the Securities and Exchange
They were more
Commission.
like a bank. They had so much money.
They did. They were stinking rich thanks to the dot-com boom, and that kept them going in their arrogance for years afterwards.
Yeah.
When you hear them prevaricate over open source again and again and again, for God's sake, guys, sort it out. And when I went to an Oracle Sun conference, it was like we were still in the dot-com boom. That's what it felt like. Waiters walking around handing out drinks to people as they're walking around. It was terrible. Anyway,
that's all right.
I know, but they were just so lost in the histories of the dot-com boom. They thought they were trying to relive the glory days every day.
Well, let's just hope the people who are now being made redundant through the merger with
apparently, shock, horror, and shame, it's the lawyers who'll get bit first.
Bless them.
Poor lawyers. They've been told to polish their resume now because Oracle's got a history of sacking lawyers they acquire because they don't need them. They've got their own very good lawyers. And with that mini rant out of the way, we are now halfway through our podcast. Of course, still to come is our discovery of the newly renamed Fortnite, and of course our open ballot, should we dump OpenOffice.org in place of something faster, lighter, and just plain better? And I think you know my answer already.
That's right, Paul. It is what the cool kids are calling DOTF, Discovery of the Fortnite. I think
all those cool kids.
I saw
some on the way to the station this morning.
Really? Carrying Linux format.
Yeah.
listening to TuxRadar podcasts
Yeah,
on their
that's it.
iPods. I mean, their Linux-compatible Sansa players, whatever they've got. Right, I'm going to start this episode with Arista, which is a multimedia transcoder for converting media between various formats. Because we've all battled with mencoder on the command line. Have you ever had to use mencoder?
Oh, yes.
It's a horrible nightmare. There are about 250 billion options.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you just want to change something to AVI or...
It can do everything.
It can do everything. It's
Absolutely
the most
everything.
powerful
It can
tool
make tea, but...
in existence, yeah.
But we can't make it do anything.
No. That's the problem. So Arista is a GUI front end. It actually uses the GStreamer framework for converting video and audio into various formats. But it's really nice, it's really simple, and it includes, this is so useful, it includes presets for various devices. So if you want to convert a video for your PSP or iPod, or you can just click a button and it will give you the right resolution, the right bitrate, the most appropriate everything for the device. And this is something I think, I don't believe Ubuntu, for instance, comes with a media conversion tool included, does it? It comes with a media player totem, but people like to convert media, shrink it down, put it onto DVDs and stuff. Obviously there are codec issues with that, but I think this would be a good candidate for a media conversion tool for standard GNOME desktop.
It sounds like Handbrake.
It sounds quite a bit like Handbrake, yeah.
Does Handbrake use mencoder in the background? Or
Yes,
is
it does, I believe.
an FFmpeg?
Yeah, it does. Whereas this is GStreamer based, so it's
Right.
Uber GNOME integrated. So it's pretty cool.
It is. It's been a while since I had to do anything like that, but I did used to have a text file with,
Same
with
here,
various
yes.
mencoder commands
On
that
my
I
desktop,
worked out
yeah.
that I used to just copy and paste into the command line.
I'm sure in 2,000 years' time, archaeologists will discover these text files and some sort of primitive proto-language.
Mencoder. What are they doing?
Dash VAC opts and stuff. So, yeah, great. Graham.
Cool. Well, actually, my discovery of the fortnight is thanks to Paul.
Eh?
And it's closely related to his discovery of a couple of weeks ago, where he told us how to execute a command using system administrator privileges from a normal account. This is in Vim, the text editor on the command line.
That isn't in Ubuntu anymore.
Which isn't in Ubuntu.
It's got V.
No, which is amazing. So if you're in you're in your normal user account and you open up /fs tab or xorg.conf for whatever reason, and you want to make a change, and then you do :w to write the file, damn, you realise you haven't got the permissions to do it. And normally what I do, and I think what Paul did, is, well, you'd quit out sudo bash or whatever to an administrator account, then back into Vim, make the same changes again, losing all of that effort. Well, you can do it from within Vim, from your normal user account, and the command to do this is :w to set up the right file mode, space !sudo to execute sudo, and then it's the T command followed by a percentage symbol. What that will do is execute T on the command line with administrative privileges, which will write the file to the same file name that it had.
So you are escalating your privileges within Vim.
Yes, exactly,
Wow.
exactly. And the trick is T, which is a really useful kind of branching command that will save the output to a file.
Now, because this tip is right up there with /dot in terms of things that are hard to read out over the air.
That's very true.
It's actually TEE.
Ah, yes, you're right.
That's the
Paul,
command,
yeah.
TEE.
Oh,
TEE.
I'm sure this will all be in the podcast notes anyway. So.
Yeah, TEE is the command I'm talking about, and that's the magic to making this work. And when you execute it, it saves the file with system administrator privileges. Vim recognises the file has been changed because it's been done outside of Vim itself.
Right.
Asks you if you want to reload it.
Is there any risk here? I mean, to a lot of non-Vim users, V and Vim's commands look incredibly cryptic anyway.
So pronounced Vi.
Vi, I don't know. I'll have to ask Bill Joy, but you know, a newbie goes onto a forum, says, "Help! How do I do this?" Some malicious chap says, "Enter this long command."
I
in
agree.
V, and it just totally hoses the system.
I just can't kick the habit. I started using it a long time ago, and it's just the quickest way for editing
Why,
files.
Graham? Why? What sense does it make to type colon?
It was one of my
WQ?
first jobs. It was programming through Vim and VI. So I just never
Does that
got.
keep your password then?
It does.
Right.
It does it. Yeah, with the new Ubuntu, it doesn't because it keeps the credentials for your session.
Right.
But if you haven't entered your root password, it will ask you.
Cool.
So thanks, Paul.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great. You got to follow that one up now, Paul. It's even better.
Well, I followed mine up already last time on the podcast notes, but not everyone reads the podcast notes. In fact, no one reads the podcast notes. Damn you. So I'll tell you anyway. It's still great. Last time I had a rant about a Python, and since then, Guido van Rossum's been in touch with death threats. So I'd just like to say how I love Python. No, just kidding. So last time I said how much I didn't like Python, but since then I've discovered an awesome library called CTypes.
CTypes.
C, the letter C, types. And what it does is it basically imports all sorts of C data types, in char star, whatever, into Python. And as a result, it's got this fantastic class called CDLL. And what it does is you basically specify any DLL, any .so file on your Linux file system that you want to load. Do that, it loads it into Python, and you can start calling its functions straight away. And behind the scenes, it maps Python strings to char star or whatever, integers to integers, and does all the hard work for you. So you can just, you can do cdll libc.so, then call printf.
So basically, you don't necessarily need Python bindings for anything on the system. They help, they're nicer, they're cleaner. But if you really want, you can get xlibs and...
Exactly, you can dig through virtually everything. I'm not sure what Pygame actually does that requires it to be so big and fat, when really you can just use CDLL. But that's more just ignorance, I think. I expect it's things like caching. If you put a string through a function call in CDLL, maybe it has to convert that to a char star every single time, for example. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I'd look into it more, do some benchmarks, but it's certainly, if you want to do quick hacks with C stuff, it's very, very fast to do that. You can load virtually anything and just start calling functions. And if something returns a complex return value in an X resource or whatever, stick it into a Python variable, Python doesn't care less, and they can put that back into CDLL and it'll still work.
Oh, so you
pointer
can
to anything, basically.
Traffic stuff around it
it's
in
fine.
Python.
Any pointer return value, just send that along, it'll be fine. It doesn't mind. It's completely fine with it.
Does it make up for a lack of case?
Nothing would make up for the lack of a switch case statement. I still don't like Python. But seriously, you after this podcast, listeners, go away and Google CDLL CTypes, and you will find virtually nothing, because the Python documentation is bloody awful. That's where it looks like it clips. You can see it as a laptop now. It's clipping as it records. It's awful. God damn you, Python documentation writers.
Look, is that because this system is intended to be like a last resort kind of?
No,
you really need to hack it.
Seriously, I was looking through to just do stuff with Python generally, and it's all written in Bacchus Now formation.
Right.
How do you do this in Python? Well, it's just, here's how the language constructs work. I don't want that. I just want some examples. And to be fair, I have been spoiled somewhat by the fantastic PHP documentation.
Yeah.
Which says, here's a function, here are 3 examples of using it in different ways, or often 5, 6, 7
It is good,
examples.
yeah.
So every function is backed up with examples, and in the Python one there isn't that. You type like os.system whatever to find out the function. It'll list the function name, tell you what it takes, and give no examples.
Right.
It'll show you every function in the OS, we call it namespace, I guess.
Yeah,
namespace, and not any examples.
Right.
And it just, I don't know why they've done that. Maybe there's Silverlight on books or something. I'm not sure, but the PHP documentation is fantastic in comparison. So yes, guys, go ahead and Google CDLL CTypes. You'll find almost nothing. Take away CDLL and look for CTypes, and you'll find something. I think you'll find a CTypes man page and like 4th hit or something.
How did you find it then?
Just pure skill. Pure bloody desperation.
Right.
That's the thing. You end up digging through lots and lots of man pages to try and find stuff, and eventually you find what you're looking for, and it's there. Someone's given a code example away or something, and then it works. But there's just no good centralized place for it. So anyway, CDLL, it's fantastic. It's fantastically hard to find, but it's very, very good. And I think that's what Python's getting wrong. It's got all this power, all the functionality, but you've got to know where it is. You've got to know how to find it. And right now, that's not very easy. So,
sounds like we need a tutorial on it.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Well, actually, we have done a few, haven't we? Code projects. Not that they work sometimes, they might.
On CDLL?
On CDLL? Yeah, we could do, yeah. It'll take me 5 minutes to write. Let us know if you want that right, readers or listeners even, and I'll write one for you. It's fine.
Cool. And finally, Andrew?
Finally, I was playing with Firefox widgets. Firefox add-ons.
Oh, it was installed, was it? That's nice.
He's got 7.10.
I've got 7.10.
Yeah.
Firefox 1.
Firefox 1 on 7.10, and I found an add-on called UK Threat Level, which is a great big barrel of laughs. It installs a tiny tiny little orange blob in the bottom right of your Firefox window with the word severe in block caps on it, and it doesn't, and that's all it does.
Wow. Is it always orange?
They'll never have to change.
It's always orange, apart from when you go offline or when you're and then it changes to something really alarming, like
skull and crossbones.
Like, not available.
The government has been taken out.
Yeah, but you don't know whether it's because your internet connection's down or because the Home Office has been destroyed. So it's a little widget that picks up the UK Home Office's terror threat level warning. However they calibrate this, I don't know if there's an SI unit for threats, but and then it just pipes it to your desktop so that you know in how much mortal danger you are. And I wonder how we ever got through the 80s and 70s without it, because it's so useful.
It sounds very small though. Do you not think they should make it bigger?
I think
you might forget about it being there.
Well, if you install Flash, I'm sure you can get it just to come up on the screen every 10 minutes. Just like, bong, alert. We could probably, if someone wanted to write a silly tutorial, we could probably expand it to like add sound effects and things. It's so banal, it's actually really funny. It makes me laugh.
But do you know if whoever wrote it was actually being serious?
I don't know.
We'll have to find out.
But then, like the best satires are often those that just blur the lines and you can't really tell.
Yeah, it does sound like.
You heard Paul ranting and raving about OpenOffice earlier, which brings us neatly on to our Open Ballot topic for this fortnight.
Yep.
Whoa.
Controversial.
OpenOffice. Should we ditch it for something lighter and faster? We're always moaning about OpenOffice, but still, it's still really, really slow. It's bloated. Yes, it's got great interoperability with Microsoft Office, but there are so many other Office suites out there, and still we just keep using it. It's the default, and we just stick with it. Should we be doing so?
Well, I run Ubuntu, which doesn't include OpenOffice by default. It includes Numeric and AbiWord. But I still end up installing OpenOffice, and I still end up using it when I shouldn't. I tend to use it primarily as a conversion tool for converting Microsoft Office documents, but all I really need in a word processor is a word count and a spell check, and that's it. So
that's what John Hudson says on TuxRadar.com, but that's the exact opposite of what I do. I install AbiWord as soon as I get a new distro, which is once every 2 years.
Yeah. Surprised AbiWord's even running on yours.
Well, the only way I use OpenOffice.org is part of an argument for switching to Linux, because it's an essential part of the desktop. It's great that we can say that there's Microsoft Office compatibility. You don't have to worry about sending and receiving files to your colleagues. But no, it's just so slow. It'll sit there in the toolbar, and I'll load it if I have to load a Word document. But other than that, it's just so much quicker to use. Well, AbiWord is what I use for simple editing.
Do you use KOffice at all?
No, I don't. I mean, KOffice has been really poor in following up the Oasis standard, and it makes interoperability a bit of a pain, and it's unstable and hasn't properly been ported to 4.
Well, KOffice 2
yeah,
still.
Although when it used to work, it worked very well, and it was a great, efficient Office suite. So it'll be nice when it's working again. Mm-hmm. So despite everybody seemingly on TuxRadar.com saying that they think OpenOffice is a good thing, we're saying that we don't really like it.
OpenOffice does have a lot of defenders. Edwards80 says, I think it comes down to the community for me. This is something that I just never even thought about. If I'm doing something slightly off the beaten track, it's nice to know that there are plenty of people to ask for help. The other Office apps are a bit of an unknown quantity in that respect, even if I've liked the ones that I've tried. Dan Dart.
Dan Dart.
Awesome name, says, we're moving over to the cloud anyway, so we should ditch bloated apps like those. I use Google Docs anyway. Google Docs? Are we ready to move to Google Docs rather than OpenOffice?
No, I'm a little bit sceptical about Office documents in the cloud. I mean, it's a great feature. It's a nice idea, and I do use it for some things. Yeah. But no, I like to see a physical copy on my hard drive or on my USB stick.
Encrypted, of course.
Haven't we? Didn't we include a feature recently in Linux format about the dangers inherent in cloud computing? We got some guy to write it. Some dude who we found.
Do you read that at some Graham?
No.
Well, I think it was interesting what Captain Tux said. on the TuxRadar comments as well. He said, OpenOffice.org is slow to open, but if you're really that pressed for time, what may be in order is better time management. I mean, so we may as well make it even slower, so you've got more time to sort out your life.
Well, that's it. Maybe it's not the software, maybe it's us. Maybe we're all in the wrong.
I think there's a good argument for computers never actually turning on. You press the button, nothing happens, and you have to go away and have a real life.
You have to go out into the sunshine and play football or something.
It is quite sunny outside here in Bath.
Well, Javier El Pingüino Anónimo says maybe it is time to dump OpenOffice. The only problem is that it's the only alternative nowadays. He knows that OpenOffice is slow and the interface is far from perfect, but it's the only option for Linux users.
Why is it the only option, though? AbiWord is really good. Numeric is very, very good. Those two programs.
Well, he points out, yes, that OpenOffice is slow, but down at the bottom it says Firefox and Google Docs is not exactly a fast combination either. So although we knock it for speed, it's not actually that far behind a lot of things. Not
if you're using the cloud, no. I mean, the JavaScript engines are getting better in browsers to speed that up, but... I think apart from converting file formats, which OpenOffice is very, very good at, I think it would just improve the desktop experience if you chuck AbiWord on the distro by default. People go, I'm going to start this word processor. Bang, it's up there in a second. People think, this is a super fast, cool, trim operating system.
It's not just the launch speed, it's the editing speed. When you've used OpenOffice Writer for some time, you get used to the way it works, and then you switch to AbiWord. It's amazingly quick. It does things instantaneously, just scrolling through several pages of text, searching for something, paging up, paging down, paging to the end of a line. Everything feels so much quicker, and that's the problem with OpenOffice.org. I think it's great that we've got it. It's a solid foundation of our open source desktops, and we need it to convince people to switch. But other than that, nothing has really changed since we first started complaining about this 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
What Office suite does macOS run?
macOS runs edit.bin, a 4 kilobyte text editor.
And does that have a spell checker?
No, because I never make any spelling mistakes. Why? Why would I need that? Are you going to say anything about this one, Paul? Remarkably quiet.
I've used up all my bile on Python.
You're just like zoned out.
I'd love to complain more, but I don't think I can. I use OOO because I can't bother changing it. It's just pure laziness. I know I should change. AbiWord's better.
There we go.
But there is
strong opinions.
There's no base equivalent, is there? There's no Impress equivalent.
No.
But I would never use those anyway.
Base is great.
That's that settled.
Answer that if you can.
Sure, there's no... If you want an open source equivalent to PowerPoint, you've got to use OpenOffice. But
you could use.
But who wants to use PowerPoint? Who wants? I mean, surely a blackboard and some chalk, or a whiteboard and some pens are far better.
Do you think when Steve Jobs launches his products, then it would work well with a blackboard and some chalk? Steve
Jobs uses those like whizzy. Why am I pointing at the wall?
it works well, listeners. Imagine it.
Steve Jobs, I'm sure he doesn't use those really cheesy fade in and dissolve and things where different lines of text are animated as he's talking about them.
With a typewriter sound.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's the Steve Jobs effect that worries me. Keynote is what he uses, and it's a very, very impressive bit of software. Has 3D effects built into the very, very core. And this is something we're only just starting to get in recent versions of OOO.
Yeah.
And I think, in a way, because our key applications, our Firefoxes and our OpenOffice.orgs, are designed to be cross-platform out of the box, then they're always going to be sort of the bastard children of Linux. We're never going to get fantastic integration with Linux. We're never going to get fantastic speed with Linux.
Because they're always trying to...
We never get compiz built into OOO, which is what we really want. We really want, the kind of effect Keynote has as standard in there everywhere. We're never going to get it because it has to, working everywhere. It has to work on Windows, it has to work on OS X. So yeah, it's just the cross-platform nature of it, and I'm starting to build a bit more bile here.
Here we go.
Just thinking of Python.
Level 1.
The cross-platform thing is what holds us back, I think.
Right.
And that's why yesterday, maybe I should hold this back for my new discovery. I finally found there's actually WebKit GTK. I hadn't heard of this before.
Yeah, that like used in Epiphany. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool, and I honestly believe Gecko is dead.
Gecko is dead.
This is the end of it. With Google and Apple working on WebKit full time.
Yeah.
Good luck, Mozilla. You try your best. You've had a nice run, made some money, had laughs. Goodbye. Because WebKit will take over. I think, and I think that's going to be wonderful for the Linux desktop. Everything fast out of the box, because Gecko, the hideous mess, is gone. I think, eventually, if that happens to OO as well, that'd be wonderful. And before I get even angrier, let's draw this podcast to a close. Thank you very much all for listening. And
Right, that's it. That is it. I'm going on strike.
are you some sort of Frenchman?
Yes, absolument. Every single podcast, the same thing. You keep forgetting about my one more thing. That's it. I'm out the door. You can ask me back if you want.
I'm not going to do it. Someone else do it.
Does anybody want a one more thing?
Oh, go on, Mike.
Come on.
Go on. I'll stop. Go ahead. You take over.
Hurrah! Now, pretty much everybody has a USB flash key or external hard drive now. We all have one, don't we?
Yes.
But they're they're almost always formatted with the FAT32 file system. Shock horror.
Tom.
Yeah. And FAT32 is limited to files of 4 gigabytes or smaller, so if you're trying to copy over a large backup archive or another large file, you get into problems, because it copies up to the 4 gig mark and then it just shouts in your face, I can't do this. So the answer is to use a command at the command line called split. Split, as the name suggests, chops up files into smaller portions, and then you can sew them back together later. So, for instance, and you'll see the proper command in the podcast notes, but you can use split-b4000m file name to split that file name into 4,000 megabytes, into 4,000 megabyte chunks. And so if you've got a 12,000 megabyte file, it'll split it into 3 files, and then you can sew them together later with cat again. The command is in the podcast notes.
Yeah, it's a very good command for joining things.
It is, yeah. And you can find out more about split using the manual page. So enter man split in your command line, which sounds painful.
I had that exact problem recently, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Man split.
Man splitting.
No. For my own pain, I was trying to copy OpenSUSE ISO around.
Right.
And it ended up being too big for my USB sticks. I was running FAT32, so I ended up just using a Samba share. and in one of those inexplicable problems of technology, it was copying at 1 megabyte a second across gigabit Ethernet. Thanks, lads.
Right.
Okay, go slowly. I have to leave it overnight, shall I? Oh well, and with that, larks, it comes to the real end of our podcast. Don't forget our awesome subscriptions deal at tinyurl.com/podcastlxf. All the notes, including Graham's incredibly hard to understand discovery of the week, are on the podcast notes on the website. And new this fortnight even, we're going to give out 3 free magazines to people. All you have to do is post something witty in our comments for the podcast. Answer the question, what should the next Ubuntu name be if it wasn't already Karmic Koala? Think of something worse than that, stupider than that, funnier than that. The best 3 that make us laugh the most will win a free magazine. Wow, what an awesome deal that is.
Cool.
And of course you can tune in 2 weeks, aka a fortnight, for more TuxRadar podcast action. Take care, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.